Okay, let's see who's here. Got lots of people already. This is wonderful. Happy New Year, everyone. And I hope everybody's having a good start to their new year. I hope that life is peaceful and that you're having some adventure and some introspection and diving deep into your identity, finding no boundaries, finding no points of fixation, or finding points of fixation and diving in, inquiring, dissolving, integrating. But first, I just want to say thank you to all of the channel members, supporters, patron circle, founders, sustaining members. All of your contributions are very much appreciated. I try to give perks and double barrels and all the different things for channel members, but ultimately these are donations that really help me keep all this going. So I appreciate that, your support at any level. If you are interested in these lives, then sustaining member level and above, I'll do a live at least once a month, and I'll do a double-barreled non-duality on Zoom at least once a month with a different facilitator, and we tag team questions. This one, I answer questions that people type into the comment section. That's about it. I guess announcements. I don't really have any new announcements. We are having a retreat in May at Art of Living. That is the multimodality retreat, conference and retreat. There'll be other non-dual facilitators there. There will be the Inside Circle group doing deep shadow work for an entire one-day intensive for those people who choose the breakouts. You can do it without breakouts, and you'll still have all the stuff I do and silent meditations and large group activities. You still get all that. So if you want to sign up for that, I would get on it because I think it's really just about full now, but there's still spots as far as I know. We have a retreat in the UK in August. First retreat overseas. It filled up, but then we got another portion of a contract we're working on where we can rent another block of beds basically in rooms. So that's in the works. We'll go through the waiting list, and then if we have any beyond the waiting list, we'll open it up. But if you're on the waiting list or if you signed up for the UK retreat and we're told you're on the waiting list, just be patient. Hopefully in the next week or so, we'll know the answer to this. And well, the answer is yes. We'll be able to get probably a lot of the people on the waiting list in, if not all of them. But I have to make sure that the contract is taken care of and so forth. So I think that's it for now. Let's do some questions, comments, observations. I'm going to start here at the top. Maybe. I think I'm at the top. Tia, hello from Frederick, Maryland. Hello. She said, here a little early, try to input a question from Simply Always Awake member who couldn't join us because of the time difference. The question is, I understand that it is possible to self-inquiry as unbound consciousness. Okay. Could you talk a little more about it? What do you know? How do you know it is happening? I'm honestly a little unclear on this question. Oh, it's possible to self-identify. Excuse me, I read the question wrong. It's possible to self-identify as unbound consciousness. Could you talk a little more about it? Okay. Would I think the mechanistic underlying thing that happens with an awakening is this, essentially? You recognize the unbound nature of identity. Okay? That's not the same as deeper, like non-dual and no self-realization, but it is the first step. And it feels very much like that. But you probably won't be identifying like mechanisms or anything. You're just in such flow. And the experience of the weight being lifted and the sense of freedom that comes with that shift is so interesting, enticing, natural, beautiful, that you just sort of absorb into it, sort of, so to speak. There's not really good words for this because after this shift, after awakening, and I've talked to a couple people in the last few days who've gone through a recent awakening, and there's nothing to emphasize because you know it so directly now. You finally actually know what it is to feel your intuition in deep alignment with experience. And so what you're not doing is trying to identify. What you're not doing is saying, I'm now identifying as consciousness. So I'm hesitant to actually say that, even though it is the underlying mechanism. This question of how do you know it's happening? Well, you don't know it through concepts, or rather you see extremely clearly that to know I am awake or I am asleep through concepts is in one sense the obstruction. Because now you feel and see like it's just this. It's just happening all the time. There's just clarity. Awakeness is. There's no am I in it or am I out of it? There's no entry or exit point. So that's kind of how I would answer that. And I would say if that hasn't happened to you, if you haven't had a shift yet, don't worry about figuring all that out. Like you don't need to know that. You don't need to know how will I know. The part of you that wants to know how will you know, that's the part that's holding back a little bit. This is why the one-pointed approach is so beautiful, or mu is so beautiful. It's just about absorption, right? Absorb yourself so fully in mu that there's just mu. Mu, mooing, mu. All there is mu, right? Once you're at that point of absorption, there's nothing stepping back and going, oh, okay, well, how will I know? What's going to happen? Like, what's it going to look like when I'm awake? And, that's thoughts. Those are thoughts. You can disidentify from those thoughts and realize you don't have to know. You have to give up, in one sense, you have to give up the limited version of knowing to really know. Cool. Okay. From Nomi. Can there be a lot of distress, somewhat depressing feelings, and equanimity and peace at the same time? Oh, totally. Yep. In fact, post-awakening, shadow material, shadow work often feels just like this. There's a sense of deep peace often, a sense that everything really is okay. Not even a sense, a pretty deep intuitive understanding that everything is actually okay. At the same time, you'll be like, ooh, man, that sadness is like more direct than I've ever experienced it. That anger is like so powerful, or even a sense of some still numbness, some dissociation, and like some depression. That stuff can still be around for a while. Yeah. But now that you have that access to the absolute aspect of you, of reality, not just access, you realize the empty nature. You realize the absolute aspect. It's a realization. It's so obvious, right? Now that gives you a totally different ability to not hold a rigid perspective on anything, meaning not hold a rigid perspective on depression, not hold a rigid perspective on suffering, not hold a rigid perception on my lover, not holding a rigid perception on me and my history or my trauma, right? When you don't hold a rigid perspective, because you've realized the absolute aspect, which is the first step, it has to be done, then you have so much more ability to, dissolve, integrate, penetrate, bring the shadow into light, so to speak. Good question. Okay, Ashley. Sitting here just relaxing. Nice. It is relaxing, isn't it? These bodies can be such a vessel for relaxation and peace. It's amazing. Okay, this is from Is. That's the name, Is. I-S. I like it. Okay, part 1. Hi, everyone from Zurich. A recent video you recommended connecting with contractions in the body, going in a deeper time going a little deeper each time until a clear emotion is felt releasing. Okay. Part 2. I'm curious if this is a tool in the tool belt and if we will always have to keep doing this, or will the body get to a place where it is naturally relaxed and at peace? So my answer to you is going to be similar to the answer that I gave before. And it's like, this is just the feel of it. You don't really have to know that. You don't actually have to know that ahead of time, right? You don't have to know that a priori. It'll take care of itself. You will take care of itself. Sometimes what's implicit or hidden in questions like this is like, when will this end? When will something end? When will something be permanent? When will something, and all of those concepts, permanence, coming to an end, the end of something, never having to do something again, these are all based in the illusion of time. I want you to be free of the illusion of time and the suffering it causes. And when you're free of that, you'll be free of these concerns. Really. Good question. All right. This is from Bears Without Ears. That's cute. Those bears don't have ears. Hello, everyone. Dimitri, good to hear from you. Jennifer, hi, friends. North Carolina. David and Elaine, hello. Elaine, excuse me. Love and greetings from Southeast England. Beautiful. Looking forward to going to England. This is from Celine. I don't know if I've seen that name before. Celine L. Nice to see you on here. Cherie Miller. Hello. Medford, Oregon. Rex Mix. Fun name. I'm trying visual field exercises and noticing how the self is created when noticing an object. Yes. I'm going to be precise because you're talking about a precise inquiry. The self is not created by noticing an object. The sense of being a noticer, the sense of subjectivity, the sense of a point in space that feels like a subject that's really apart from an object. That is not created by the sense of an object. It's created in conjunction with the sense of there being an object. Okay, good. But I feel stuck as my understanding is mostly conceptual and can't seem to make it experiential. So Rex Mix, I would highly recommend working toward a first awakening, a first shift, which you don't need to work in the visual field at all for that. You can if it's interesting to you, but often this is what happens. You get to a certain point and it's like, it just becomes either too conceptual or just too opaque or like a barrier you can't cross. So the playlists for that are Basics of Awakening and then Awakening Approaches. And there are a ton of videos. Find what approach works for you. Is it Mu? Is it self-inquiry? Is it inquiry into the nature of thought? Whatever it is fine, but that's the key here, I think. All right. And then from the same commenter, I think I had a brief experience where the self disappeared, but the shock of it brought me right back. Yeah, that's what happens. Like you can have an experiential no self moment. You can have an experiential non-dual moment. You can have an experiential unity consciousness moment. You can have all these experiences, but that's not realization. And so that's why I don't strongly encourage people to chase experiences through anything, including like psychedelics or breath work or any of that. All those things can have value, but don't use them to chase experiences. If you're talking to me, if we're talking in this way, I assume you're interested in really waking up. So it's not about experience. Waking up is not about an extreme experience. It can come with extreme experiences. Extreme experiences can be a side effect of precursors to awakening, but it's not about experience. Cool? All right. So any advice on how to proceed is what I said. Yeah, work toward first awakening or Kensho. And when I say work toward it, I mean, yeah, that's just put your emphasis on that. There's no toward. There's no future in which that's going to happen, or past in which it didn't happen, or any present right now in which you know anything about yourself or awakening or me or anything, right? But those are the playlists I would orient toward for that. Good question. Okay. The art on the thumbnail. Oh, thanks. I don't remember what it was. Know me. I have this question that keeps coming back. If I am still waking up, but it seems to come from a good place, less controlling the waking up, less understanding, ... Is he pointing to something out there? Yeah. What is your experience of out there, right? In the simplest way, in the most mundane, day-to-day way. What is your experience of out there? Look, anything can be a koan. That can be a koan. What is your experience of out there? Maybe anything can't be a koan. Like, what's the most delicious hamburger at McDonald's? But you know what I mean? Like, something like this, if it's an authentic question to you, and it's pointing to an assumption that there's an out there. Do you see it out there? Do you actually see it? What do you really see when you look into the visual experience, into the scenery? Maybe you're not seeing out there. Maybe out there is added on after, but look for it. You got to like look into your experience deeper and deeper and deeper. Good. Yep. Cherie nailed it there. What out there? What out there? There's an out there? All right. Federico. Hi. I had started to understand enlightenment about whatever was happening instead of something to achieve a few weeks ago. Cool. Okay. But instead of that deepening, it seems to be slipping away. Yeah. What barrier did you hit? I'm not saying you know you hit a barrier, but I'm guessing you hit a barrier. Like, ask yourself, what barrier do I hit here? What stopped me? What turned you back around? And understand your mind, your conceptual mind may not really know. Part of you knows though. What turned you back around? Because once you get, like instinctually get what we mean when we talk about presence, mindfulness, we could call it mindfulness, but there are different versions of mindfulness. Like when you're really mindful of what's happening, you're really noticing what's present, and there is no future, no past, right? So I have to let go of all my ideas of future and past, if I'm going to be honest, with what's happening right now, right? That'll take you very, very deep, very quickly. So what stopped it? Something stopped it, right? Ask your body. See what your body says about that. And give it some time to give you an answer. I'm going to move my screens a little bit here. Okay. Hey, Diego. Good to see you. Or see your picture at least. This is from Diego here. When I inquire, how does it feel to be me right now? There's a taste that feels like has a thought around it, okay? But I cannot see it to drop it. So there's a belief here that you have to see something to drop it. Do you have to see it to drop it? Maybe trying to see something is holding on. So to not try to see something, does anything need to be dropped? The idea that there's something behind something is also a thought, right? It's an idea. It's a conclusion that there's something behind, like there's something being hidden. Is anything really hidden? Is anything hidden from me right now? Right. So you could ask something like that, actually. Is there anything hidden in my experience right now? And don't take any thought answer as a appropriate answer for the question. Because the mind will come up with all kinds of answers to that. That's fine. Let it. Set them aside and keep asking. Is there anything hidden right now? It's a really good call on. Sweet. Okay. Jennifer. I like that question. I've been having similar doubts, but seem more sticky for me. Sometimes I feel like no shifts have happened at all. And I feel like lots of shame around awakening. So I just want to point this out. So when people say like, there's a lot of shame around awakening or not having it or not getting, the shame is not about awakening. The shame or any emotion, fear, anger, whatever comes up, and it does come up differently for different people. When you do this kind of inquiry or when you feel into what awakeness is about, right? Because your instinct knows. Something in you knows for sure, 100%. So what comes up when it's like, oh, shame comes up, shame doesn't mean anything about you being awake or not awake, or it doesn't mean anything about anything. It's an experience, right? It's a feeling, it's an emotion, and it's perfectly placed. It's there to help you recognize you don't have control over what's happening right now. There's just shame. That's what's happening, right? I don't know if it's happening right now, but to your point. So if there's shame, there's just shame. Can I just feel shame fully? And trust that will take me not to what my idea of awakening is, but it will take me to whatever's next. And it may be an ability to let go in a very deep way. It may not be right now, but it is what's here, and it is totally lawful. If it's what's here, it's the absolute perfect thing for you to have right here in your experience to continue to wake up. Doesn't matter if you've had a certain kind of awakening or none, or deep realization or not. It actually does not matter. If you're oriented at the level of heart to awakening, truly willing to let go, willing to feel what needs to be felt, then whatever comes up, that's perfectly right. Perfectly right. So the shame is perfectly timed. It's your friend. Thank you. Okay. Okay, Ashley says, for me, it's more like I can sense something has permanently shifted, but what that means and try to describe it, no words will ever come close to touching it. It's true. It's true. That's why I didn't talk about this stuff in any way at all for years. Didn't even cross my mind to talk about it for that exact reason. Okay, this is from Celine. Hi, Angelo. Toward the end of the retreat in December, you asked us to notice the sense of non-doership. Would you please expand a bit on this pointing? I don't know if I can expand on what I was talking about then, because I don't remember what I was talking about, and I don't feel what I was talking about, because what I talk about isn't topical. It comes out of the moment, right? It comes out of the energetics. But if you, a direct way to experience the non-doership is to there's a lot of ways to do it. One is when you're doing anything, right? Like you're working in your kitchen, let's say, or you're doing some gardening, or you're taking a walk outside. Notice how much is actually happening without your direction. Are you moving the clouds? Are you moving the sky? Are you moving the feet? Are you moving the breath? Are you making the heartbeat? Are you moving the digestive tract? Are you moving the dog's paws? Are you you're not doing any of that? Very obviously, right? Just keep noticing that. Adyashanti has this funny thing. He's like, if you want to see, I don't know how exactly he said it, but he's making the point of, like, if you want to see through the sense of being a doer, just sit on your couch. At some point you'll get up. So at some point the body will literally just get up off the couch. And that may sound really silly, but it's true. That's exactly what would happen. Watch the body move when you're even doing something simple that requires, like, say, fine motor skills, like you're building a gingerbread house, doing some origami. Watch the hands move. Are you like directing, like, okay, well, this finger, the tip of that finger is going to move this way, and then the tension in that tendon is going to be 80%, and then it's going to release, and then this tendon over here. Like, think of all those movements in your hands, those fine motor movements, or the way your face moves when you speak and emote. You're not in control of that stuff. The thoughts are just reflections. And the funny thing is, they, like, logically, you aren't in control of that stuff. So your mind doesn't try to sell you that. What it sells you is you're in control of the big picture. I'm making things happen in this life, like in a big way. But when you really look at it, that's all conceptual. It's like summary. It's like your mind is summarizing things. But then it's saying, oh, because I can summarize what happened or what seems to be happening in some way that I can use to communicate with others, right? And that's the function of language, is like that kind of collaboration in a sense. Because I can do that, somehow I can believe that that same way of processing can make me create a future. It's insane. Yeah. Okay, with all that said, generally speaking, I wouldn't necessarily try to see through the doer for a first awakening, for instance, unless it feels really, really relevant to you. I don't want to tell anyone not to do anything if it seems very meaningful and relevant. But the sense of doership doesn't usually go away by trying to make it go away. You just see through it. In deeper realization, you see through it pretty thoroughly, laughably. But until then, you can try these exercises and stuff, but I don't know how lasting that will be for you. But again, if it feels relevant and interesting, go for it. Okay, this one is from, where'd I go here? OBI. Okay. When I saw OBI, I thought Obi-Wan Kenobi, but probably not. Can one have moments of no self, just a view with no viewer and no... Absolutely. Yep, totally. There's a medicine, drug, you call it either one, whatever you want to call it, depending on how on board you are with psychedelics. You might call it a medicine. It's called 5-MeO-DMT, and a lot of people describe that it gives them the experience of no self. And it can be really unsettling for some people. For other people, it's really enjoyable, but it's experiential. It's definitely an experience. It's not realization. So there's an example. So you can make it happen with a drug or whatever. And some people do have a taste of it for sure early on. Sometimes if a first awakening is really deep, you'll start to see through the self illusion, but it won't stabilize usually. In fact, it almost never does right away. It takes time. Good question. Okay. This is from David and Elaine. Hello, Angelo. While dealing with a recent family illness, your series of guided meditations on your app have been a wonderful, supportive companion when racing thoughts and sensations arise. Continued, okay? They guide one back to the presence and cultivate a sense of equanimity and calm. Profound thanks. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that they were helpful. The other day, someone I know really well, I've known for many, many years and worked with for many years, and this person's very awake, was like, do you know of any good meditation apps? I'm like, well, I have about 70 on mine. And they were like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Thanks. I forget I have it too sometimes, but there's a lot on there. Okay. This comes from Christopher Joy. Okay, got a little heart with shiny diamonds on it. It's pretty. I think you're a new member. Thank you. I think you're a new member based on your little lotus. Okay. This is from Anne Lay. Hi, Angelo. Hi, everyone. Part 1. Noticed today that this ever-present subtle electricity-like sounding background in the head is matching very subtle buzzing aliveness in the body. Isn't that great? Kind of awesome, isn't it? Part 2. And feels like reality and solidity of the body and world are starting to change, more of perceiving senses instead of seeing and feeling things. Good. Awesome. Part 3. And the same thing starting to feel... Oh, I'm sorry. At the same time, starting to feel so unsettled and restlessness, energy, irritation, frustration. Totally. Yeah. This is what I have said many times, that it doesn't seem like non-dual realization, true non-dual, lack of boundaries, lack of form and distance and so forth. It doesn't seem like that has anything to do with emotion, right? But it has everything to do with emotion, or has a lot to do with it. And the relationship is essentially one of the things that are called our cognitive apparatus or whatever it is that creates that illusion of boundaries. One thing it does is it helps us to not feel certain things. It helps us to compartmentalize our experience. So this is why some people early on tend to be people with a little bit more masculine energy, or people who are more like conceptual and stuff. They'll like get really interested in the idea of non-duality, right? Oh, it sounds so cool. I want to learn that. I want to like engage that. That's fine. But like until you do a significant amount of shadow and emotion work, or are willing to feel very raw and unfiltered, it will elude you. You might get tastes of it, and you may force that with substances, but to really have the stability of it, you have to go through that shadow. You just have to, because otherwise you'll feel a major fucking recoil in the self structure. It's like, nope. I don't want to be completely defenseless. This is Tamiko Fisher. Hello from Ireland. Hello. I like the little Kimura emoji. She's right behind me. Sleeping like a baby. Cleo and Kimura both sleeping in their little bed. Okay, from Sean. Joy be with all from La Veta, Southern Colorado. Nice. Good to see you, Sean. La Veta. Trying to think if I've been to La Veta. Maybe. It sounds familiar. I've probably been through there. Okay. Now we are finally to the comments that came after I went live. These were all pre-live comments I was just reading. Okay. Let's go way back up here. All right. From Gareth. Hi, Angelo. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Gareth. Hey, Liz. Hey, Sandra. Hey, Karen. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year, Tia. Sean, you're very welcome. Bears Without Ears gave us a little blue heart. That's fun. Hey, Hannah. Are you Hannah from Germany? Lisa. Question. How to differentiate between a thought and creative imagination when insight is so subtle? Will the body know? Oh, for sure. Maybe imagination is just a thought. Oh, well, imagination is definitely just a thought. Yeah, for sure. When you say imagination, I assume you mean an image, literally an image in the mind, like a visual experience that's not this visual experience. Yeah. How to differentiate between a thought and creative imagination? Well, one way to do it is just open your eyes. That's the visual field. Close your eyes. Imagine something. A dragon, a jar of mayonnaise, a magic trick, a magician, a bunny coming out of a hat, right? Open your eyes, right? I know that sounds silly, but that may be helpful actually to retrain your attention to very clearly differentiate between what I'm going to call the visual field, the sense gate we call the visual, and imagination, which is an image in the mind. Cool. And if anyone is curious about this, I mean, some people have said to me on occasion, like, well, is there really a difference? I'm like, well, there definitely is a difference. Like, for instance, as an example, to be very specific, if you actually can't tell the difference between something you're visualizing in the mind or something you're seeing when you open your eyes, that is the definition of hallucination, right? Like if you say are schizophrenic and have visual hallucinations, that's what that is. If you can't actually differentiate like a monster that the mind is imagining from the room you're in, then that can be psychosis, right? So it's very different than saying like, with awakening, often the sense of thoughts becomes so thin and so unreal that you realize that everything you're overlaying onto the external world is also unreal, right? And in that way of speaking, it's all an illusion, right? But even then, the raw visual experience, even though it will look different than you thought it looked in a lot of ways, is distinct from that experience of unbound being, unbound consciousness. Not everybody knows this, by the way. Many teachers teach from the experience of what I would call unbound consciousness, unity consciousness. You could call it God consciousness. It has a lot of iterations, and it does clarify more and more and more, but not realizing that's just the sixth sense gate, right? It's a cognition gate. That's why the Heart Sutra is so badass. The Heart Sutra points this out so clearly. But things get so subtle, it can be hard to realize there's actually more to go. There's a lot more to go, more realization to go than just that first awakening or that first insight, as big of a deal as it can be. Good. Okay. Janil. Hello, everyone. Arnaud. Hello. From Montreal. Cool. Hello from Ibiza. Nice. That's Pahai, P-A-J-A-I. This is from Sis Keel. We've started. Miriam, Master Angelo. Jeannie. Hello. DVD Mon. Hello. Autumn. Hello. Danny. Okay. I'm working through shadow reactivity, and one sticking point is money and being afraid to lose it. I find myself soothing in spreadsheets, inquiring in its fear. Is there more to inquire or just see? Money and being afraid to lose it. What are you really afraid of, though? Yeah. Money is a symbol for something. We could say it's a symbol for material wealth or whatever, right? But even that's a symbol for something. What is it you're really afraid of? That's what I would do, is inquire into what am I actually afraid of? Like, meaning, what would it mean to lose all the money? That's the good place to go. Yeah. Cool. Infinite Nothing. Hello, fellow sufferers. Ryan. Yo. Good to hear from you, Ryan. All right. Any advice for a newbie, how to start with the topic of awakening? Yeah, the playlists. I have 3 playlists. I really organize this channel into playlists on purpose for this reason. But one of them you may really like is called the introductory series. And I actually really enjoyed doing that. It's like taking the most basic questions people ask, and then I kind of answer or riff on them. But it was really a fun series because it's not just early insights that come out of that. Some deeper insights come out. But the introductory series is fun. And then when you're like, okay, I want to orient toward Kensho or awakening, the Basics of Awakening playlist, and then the Awakening Approaches specifically playlist. That's going to help you find like, okay, koan, self-inquiry, how do I orient to this? The other ones that will be fun would be the playlist on thoughts, the playlist on consciousness, and the playlist on mind identification. Those are all helpful. Got to sneeze. All right. Arnaud from Montreal. Oh, I'm sorry. I already went back up there. Oh, this is good. Not Quite Sam. That's a great username. Part 1. Hi, Angelo. Last week, every thought appeared within what seemed like an impersonal space witness and remained untouchable by any negative emotions or mere thoughts. Okay. Let me look for part 2. Part 2. It was so clear that I am not the imagined character I had thought I was. Awesome. But then after those 5 days, the intensity of that felt presence kind of went away. Part 3. I can't believe thoughts like I used to previous to last week. Yet that felt radiant presence is not as much present. Was it a glimpse, an initial shift? That's a really hard one to answer because you sound right on the edge of what I would call a pre-taste. But if something fundamentally changed about your sense of you, your sense of self, that's probably an awakening. It might be kind of like the shallow end of the pool in awakenings, which isn't a bad thing. It doesn't matter. Some awakenings are really, really deep, non-dual, no self, almost like you're experiencing no self right off the bat, and it's very profound, but it can also be really disruptive and really disorienting. Other times it's like something definitely shifted. Something about me is different. And now you know that radiant presence, even though you see it's not going to stabilize right away. So I sense it probably was an awakening, but could also have been just a really, really profound taste of awakening. But if something about your fundamental understanding experience of identity and reality has definitely changed, even if it's not fully clear what changed, then it probably was an awakening. Okay. Gloria says, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you. Poetic Space. Hello. John Somerville. Greetings to all. Much love. Okay. Nissa. Hello. That was not quite Sam. Brian of Brian. That's another great name. You guys make good usernames. First time for my partner Shelly and I. Very happy to be here at last. Awesome. Welcome, Shelly. Welcome, Brian of Brian. It would be good if, like, say if you were in like a law firm, it's like, hi, I'm Brian of Brian and Brian. Okay. Let's get down to this beautiful character here. It looks like kanji. It's probably kanji. Happy New Year. Barry. Hola, amigos. From the left coast. That would be the west coast of the United States, I think. Except in medicine, it would be the east coast. In medicine, we think in terms of the patient's perspective. So if you look at a chest x-ray, the right side of the chest x-ray is the patient's left side. So we would say that's the left chest. But I don't know if geography works the same. Okay, Chris. Hey, Angelo and everyone. Funny bit of shadow came up when I saw the notification for this video. I had a sense of FOMO, like a fear that I'm not doing enough to wake up. How interesting. Great. Just like I mentioned earlier, someone talked about the shame that comes up around this. Same thing. It's like, oh, fear of missing out. Fear of missing out. What's underneath that? What's the storyline? What's the narrative about that? Was there something that happened in my childhood? Was it my whole childhood? What identity defining moment fed into the FOMO? Or is it going on right now? Do you feel left out of life because of some part of your like relative self you haven't fully developed or something, right? Any of those things can be meaningful. And I even tell people sometimes, you know, they're often, I don't know about often, it happens where people are definitely interested in awakening. They know instinctually that it's real, that what I'm talking about isn't just made up. And yet there's something in their life that's just like competing for their attention, right? It's often something like, I've never really had a romantic relationship or something, right? If that happens, sometimes I tell people you may need to go develop that part of your life first. You may really need to actually get through those personal barriers, or else it's just going to keep distracting you. And then all of a sudden awakening will be suddenly far more available or accessible because you finally realize, okay, that didn't do it. The partner didn't make me fundamentally happy. You know, it changed my life in a certain way, but it didn't get to that deep fundamental okayness that I know is possible. So sometimes there is a competing agenda like that, but at the very least, admitting if there is one to yourself. I don't know if that's you at all, but sometimes when there's FOMO, there's something like that going on, right? Fear of missing out. I think others have something I don't have. Well, what do you think they have that you don't? You know. Also, sometimes there's a bit of competitiveness hidden in our personality that is coming across as FOMO or coming through as FOMO. So those are all things you can kind of look into if you want to, or don't. Okay. Arnaud says, my wife is Colombian. Be happy to chat with a fellow Colombian. Cool. If anyone here doesn't already know, we obviously have the community locator. You can Google my channel, community locator, and find it. And anywhere you are, If anyone's within a certain number of miles of you, you can find them, meaning people who are interested in Simply Always Awake, awakening, non-duality, and so forth. Okay, this is from Nathan Plays. Hello, dear Angelo. I feel things moving listening to you. However, I've discovered a major fixation of general victimhood. Okay. Currently resentment toward wife that I watch our 4 young kids most of the time. Okay. You know, these things are interesting. Like, I'll call it the if onlys, right? They seem so personal, but they're not, because it happens to so many people with different stories. So you're like, oh, if only I wasn't a single parent. If only I didn't have little kids to raise right now. If only I didn't have the chronic pain. If only I had enough money to go to retreats like these other people that I can't do that. Like the if onlys, right? So if only my partner, if only my partner could stay home and I could go to work, whatever it is, right? But the reason I point this out is, like, you probably already know, you probably sense that that's not really what the issue is, but it's distracting, right? What to do with that? I mean, part of it is just communicate it, and maybe you already have, but communicate it to your partner and say, I don't think this is actually about you, really. I think it's about me, but I just want to verbalize it, that there's some sense of, like, I'm not doing enough, or not that I'm not doing enough. I'm sorry. I'm doing too much with the kids, and I'm not developing myself in my career, or whatever it is. And just ask permission to speak vulnerably and simply without filtering, with the caveat that I know this isn't about you to your partner, right? It's about me. It's just my thing. But I think by verbalizing it, I can kind of air it out a little bit. If that wouldn't work with your partner or whatever, I mean, do it in a circling group, do it in a tea group, do it in an authentic relating community. But I think these kinds of things, they fester by not being exposed. They fester by not being brought into light somehow. And sometimes you just one time bring it up in a group that you trust or something, and all of a sudden it's like, oh God, it's not even a problem. It felt like a problem because I was burying it. I was hiding it, right? With withholding. So sometimes just reversing the act of withholding can be really cathartic with certain things like this. Okay, good comment. Nice vulnerable share. This is from Ryan. Wow, a lot of questions snuck in before the live stream started. Is there any way to turn off early commenting so that people don't feel a need to come early and earlier to get their questions in? Probably. I'm not worried about it though. I mean, yeah, I don't care how many questions there are. I think we almost always get through every question, but I see what you're saying. This is from Milagros en Casa. Woohoo! UK waiting list. All right. I'm pretty sure most or all the people on the waiting list will get in. I don't want to guarantee that, but I'm pretty sure. So this comes from Pamela. Hi, Pamela. Good to see you. I always feel just this open-heartedness when seeing you, and I don't know what it is. One of those things. Man, it is exhilarating. Some of the most intensity ever, followed by breakthrough. Yes. Then even more intensity, then another breakthrough. You're on the ride, girl. Whew. That's it, right? It's like wave after wave. Once you realize you have far more capacity to experience than you thought you did before, it's like you open the door and you're like, okay, open the door to the lost children, right? The lost child of grief comes in, then the lost child of anger comes in, but you just keep the door open and they just keep coming for a while, right? But you're seeing the way you move through this, and like you're such a sincere person, and you're so courageous and willing to go through all of this. It's just how it goes sometimes, and things will calm down. Maybe a little while, but it'll calm down. But thanks for doing the work and showing up for all this, for yourself, for your family, everyone around you. It's from Yvonne. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Ryan. This is from Ryan. You recently said that the heart chakra can open, and when it does, it's unmistakable. What do you think it means for a chakra to open? What causes it to happen, and how does it relate to realization? Okay. I'll answer these in order. What do you think it means for a chakra to open? I don't put meaning on something like this because meaning is a very superficial experience. It's a summary experience. It's a thought. But a physical experience like the chakra opening is very energetic. It's so obvious. That's why it's so obvious. It's like a beam of love coming straight out of your chest. It's one way of saying it, but it's physical and obvious. It's energetic. So what does it mean? It means nothing specific. It means what you think it means, But if it happens, you'll be like, okay, this isn't about meaning. Meaning is like a nominalization, right? So like pasting a word on top of a very profound experience. You won't worry about what it's meaning. You know what it means by feeling it in a way, right? Okay. Second question, what causes it to happen? I've seen it happen in a lot of different ways. It can and often does happen after a first awakening. It may not happen right away, but sometimes within a few days or a week after you can have it. It happens sometimes in deeper realization after doing some deep shadow work. And it can definitely happen in relational environments, like an authentic relating group where you go very deep into something, or if you spend 3 days or even 1 day with the inside circle group, people who can really go deep and do deep shadow work. Like often you'll come out of the other side of that and you just feel this massive heart opening. So there's a lot of causes, and then sometimes who knows, it just happens. Some people get it with psychedelics on occasion, yeah. And how does it relate to realization? It's okay. Usually early on, the experience of a heart opening or any chakra opening, early on, without a lot of deeper stabilized realization, let's say, the contrast between before it happened and while it's happening is so obvious. It's so powerful that the contrast itself, it makes it seem so poignant and surprising that you might actually think, how to say this? I'll just say it this way. You might mistake it for like a stage of realization, but it's not a stage of realization. It's just that what's coming online is actually the way you will naturally move in deeper realization. I hope that's clear. So in deeper realization, it's less common that something just opens like that and then closes. It's kind of like it stays open. And you're getting used to it. There's less contrast between being like really cut off and mind identified and being completely in the body, let's say. So when there's less contrast, it's like you don't always notice it as such, but it's definitely there. So the heart open experience, like for me, it's always here, I think, to some degree. And then sometimes it's just more prominent than others, but it's just always there. So that's an example. And so what does it mean to realization? Well, it's a component of the way we will move naturally when the boundaries, the illusions are dissolved and the boundaries of self and other are dissolved, and the illusion of form and perception. When all that's dissolved, it's a component of what it feels like to move naturally. And one of them is love. So yeah, good questions. All right. This is from Sandra. Oh, message retracted. Never mind. Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Happy New Year. Logan. Hey, all from Shenandoah Valley. Love that word, Shenandoah. Ladika from Eureka. Love it. There's so many retracted messages. I don't know why. Karen from Canada. Happy New Year, yeah. What part of Canada are you from, Karen? This is Tyson. Happy New Year, everyone, from Nelson, British Columbia. I have heard people say that they had to drop seeking to awaken. Do you agree? Is this literal or the seeker identification? Thanks in advance. You don't have to do anything to awaken. Say it again. You don't have to do anything to awaken. There's nothing you have to do to awaken. The part of the mind that's like, oh, yeah, I have to see through the seeker. I have to realize that the me is just this thing that can't get what it wants. It can't complete the desire to become not itself, because that doesn't make any sense because it's not there in the first place. Like, you can understand all that, sure, but you can also conclude that, oh, I have to get rid of a seeker. I have to get rid of a me. You don't have to get rid of anything. You don't have to get rid of anything. The illusion will dispel itself sooner or later, and it will have nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with you doing it, making it disappear. It may have to do with you asking the right questions. It may have to do with you being physically and energetically vulnerable in a way that you have been avoiding. So, so I won't ever give a hard and fast, like, this has to be done for awakening to happen, because I know it's not true. I've seen people wake up with no precursor to it at all. I've seen people wake up through one-pointed approach. I've seen people wake up through using Mu. I've seen people wake up through self-inquiry. I've seen people wake up because they just hear me say, there's something inside of you that knows exactly where to go right now. It wants to let go into that, but it's never gotten permission to do it. Just go do it. And that, for some people, that lands and they wake up very quickly. So it can happen in so many different ways. Yeah. Now, occasionally, not uncommonly, I'll be talking to someone, and what I feel is that the fixation is very strong on a mental idea of what awakening is going to be like for them, and they're chasing an idea, which even that's fine, really, because you can still wake up. It can still just happen anyway. But what happens, though, is chasing that idea is backward extrapolating constantly the illusion of the self moving through time, right? So seeing through that one way or another will happen with awakening. But does it cause awakening? You can see through that by watching my video playlist on time if you want. I have a whole bunch of videos where I kind of deconstruct time in that way. When you deconstruct time, you deconstruct seeking. What can you seek right now? What could you seek right now? It's impossible. Right? You can't seek anything unless you're imagining time. So you can see through it in a moment, but does that cause an awakening? It could, but it doesn't have to. And there's a lot of other ways to wake up. So yeah, I don't really give hard and fast rules. More like, what is relevant to you? If this feels super interesting and important to you to use as a way of getting deeper into your experience by dropping the seeker, deconstructing the seeker, then go to my playlist called Time, and you'll see that there are a lot of ways that I point to like deconstruct that illusion. I like these questions. We're getting some pretty good variety of questions today. This comes from Infinite Nothing. 2 years after awakening, the mind still has strong momentum. The body-mind is full of pain and trauma. Lately, emotional pain hurts more than ever. Feels like being burned to death sometimes. Is this normal? There's no normal. Can happen for sure. You've probably had a lot of trauma, I'm guessing. Somatic practices, therapy, if you find a really good therapist, especially an awake therapist, circling work with a good group who knows how to do deep transformational work. All of those. It's not about more awakening for you probably right now, at least. It's not about pounding on the non-dual approaches or whatever. Reactivity work, right? Any of those. But this is in the emotion spectrum. This is in the emotion body that's being held here. That's not being held. That's fixating. That's where the fixation is. And you're not doing anything wrong at all. It's just probably just from trauma, I would guess. Those are the things I would work on. Even the more, I guess not about traditional, but the more therapy-based approaches like IFS may work for you. EMDR may work for you. So try things, get creative, but find a place to do good, deep, authentic relating work. Mankind Project, for instance, or if you're female, there's a female version of it. I just did an interview with Bud Wheeler. He talked about that process. Those are the kind of things I think that are going to help the most for you. Not just watching non-duality videos. God forbid, don't just watch Tony Parsons. In that case, that's like the worst case for that type of pointing, because it just leads people to dissociate and not get into the deeper stages of realization and not know why. Okay. Sandra D. Hello, Angelo. I have a question. I'm burnt out and sick. Oh, and on sick leave. Okay. Has been in the work for years, I think. Meditation and inquiry versus psychiatric therapy. Would you prioritize one over the other? It's very hard to know unless I know you, for sure, right? If somebody has a history of psychosis, like inpatient treatment for psychosis, profound periods of psychosis where you really didn't know real from unreal, suicide attempts, like any of that stuff in your past really increases my threshold to say, work really closely with somebody you really trust, like a therapist who knows awakening and knows these other processes, and a good psychiatrist who, whatever, and somebody you can really trust to help you know when you are pushing yourself too hard with awakening type stuff. So, but if I don't know you, it's hard to say. I mean, there are people with bipolar disorder, let's say, who are on a stable medication regimen and have been for many years. They have really good insight into their mood states and when things are too stressed, and they know how to get help when they need it, and they know how to, all the things. Someone like that I'm less worried about. But if someone has a lot of instability and they haven't really developed deep insight about the psychiatric diagnosis yet and so forth, like this kind of stuff can be very destabilizing. So, and assuming you have good insight into the process and you take meds that you need to, and you do your appointments and all those things, if that's the case, then it's not really about prioritizing one. It's just about recognizing that you need to take care of that part of yourself and your life, just like you would if you're not interested in awakening. The example I give is like diabetes. If you're a type 1 diabetic, you need insulin. Don't think that awakening is going to suddenly make it so you don't need insulin. In the same way, don't think awakening is going to make it so you don't need a mood stabilizer. You may well need a mood stabilizer after awakening too. And that's because it's a physiologic thing, right? So just seeing each for what they are, not intermixing them or mixing them up, and not neglecting either side of things is probably the most balanced answer I can give without knowing you personally. But it's important. It's a good question, because there are people who I engage who have bipolar disorder, even some people I know who have schizophrenia, and still are very much interested in awakening. And honestly, like people with psychosis there's definitely an opening in that too, right? There's a way of seeing through the illusion of what we consider to be solid, agreed upon reality, right? And so this is the Jungian work. Like Carl Jung noticed this. He noticed that in native cultures, they would have certain motifs in their archetypal descriptions and their shamanic practices. And then he would meet somebody in a psychiatric ward who've been locked up and never been exposed to native cultures. And they say the same things, like they actually notice the same things. So archetypes of the collective unconscious and that. So there's definitely access to a lot of this, and shamanic realms are very easily available to some people with psychosis, but you also have to take care of yourself and make sure that your relative life stays functional and so forth. So it's a balancing act. Okay. Glitter Muse. I just like the name, but the message was retracted. Hannah, it feels like deep rest is needed, but when a bit of energy has regenerated, it's directly directed toward the next shadow wave. Something still tries to influence and resist. How to let go and surrender. I mean, my instinct, I'm not sure if I know who you are. I'm not sure if you're the Hannah I know. But anyway, my instinct based on reading this is to say, at some point you're going to realize you're not in control of when to rest and when to do shadow work. And so when there's rest. And when there's shadow work happening, do the shadow work, right? Give yourself to whatever situation and experience is arising, even if it's arising through your own physiology. If you feel exhausted and yet there's something that's continuing to inquire, then just be with that. If you feel exhausted and feel like, I'm just going to go crash and lay in bed for a half a day, go do that, right? Trust your instincts. Trust your body. Check in with your body mostly with this kind of stuff. The body knows what to do. And if it's already doing it, just trust that it knows what it's doing, right? Unless there's some major destabilization going on in your life, right? Like a severe addiction or something, then I don't mean it that way, but I mean it in terms of whether it's time to do surrender. Whether it's time for surrender to just be sort of happening, whether it's time to do some inquiry, whether it's time to do some intentional work, whether it's time to just rest and forget about it all. Trust that your body knows how to move through those different experiences. And as realization deepens, what happens is you just trust it more and more. You're like, oh, I could crash, be completely exhausted and just crash and go into nothingness, and trust that when that's over, the next thing will happen, and it may be a period of activity or productivity or whatever, and that'll be fine too, right? But not trying to pre-think it, not trying to resist the transitions between those movements of energy. I hope that was helpful. This is from Tia. I'm starting to feel the futility and pain in seeking. I don't even know what I am seeking for, and simultaneously know that what I'm seeking is imagined. But there is fear that if seeking drops, ... Is there more to the message? then life will just go back to normal. That sounds devastating. Okay, Tia. Your life will never go back to normal. Your head's already in the tiger's mouth, so to speak. So the mind will do this. It'll be like, oh God, it's just a scare tactic. It really is. It happens in terms of people sometimes who spend a lot of time in their life depressed, or they had a long period of depression. And as they start to wake up, they'll be like, oh, I don't want to go back into the depression. It's like, you won't. Probably. You probably won't. But it's a very convenient scare tactic for the mind, right? Because during that period of depression, you definitely had yourself convinced that, like, this is absolutely horrible. I don't want to be in this. So the mind is going to remember that, and it's going to use that to get your attention. So when that happens, just drop into the sensations, drop into the body. The body knows. Yeah. And when seeking drops, it doesn't mean your orientation to truth drops. Seeking is a time-based illusion. That's all that means. You're just seeing through the illusion of time. So if you quote unquote stop seeking and just start daydreaming, that's just another form of thinking. It's not better or worse. But that's different than when seeking stops and the illusion of daydreaming a future stops and the illusion of getting entangled in the thoughts about the past stops. Well, now you're getting somewhere by getting nowhere. You're getting here, right? So that's when the experience of presence becomes much more poignant. And from there, don't worry about thoughts. Don't worry about the past and future that don't exist. Not much to think about, right? It's just this, just presence. And it will just carry you deeper into itself. Thank you for your question, Tia. Okay, this is from Ryan. Is every believed thought an act of resistance that causes suffering? Only the ones that cause suffering. If so, how is it that some thoughts are extremely pleasant and enjoyable? It seems that thought can create both heaven and hell. Yeah, I would say the thoughts that are extremely enjoyable are just as fixating as the thoughts that are scary. That's called push and pull, right? Desire and aversion are just two sides of the same coin. What I would say is that this takes deeper realization generally to become really clear, but I think people who are deeply realized see this. That is, the primary perturbance is actually aversion, right? We're actually pulling back from life. We're pulling back from experience. And then a pleasure is actually when we have these complex ways to use thought to avoid. And the best way to avoid something is to convince yourself you're not avoiding something, but you're chasing the pleasure of something else. Does that make sense? So to me, they're the same. They're just two sides of the same coin. The addiction to pleasant thoughts and the addiction to unpleasant. The addiction to chasing pleasant thoughts and the addiction to avoiding unpleasant thoughts. They're literally just two sides of the same coin. 1, 2, 1, 2. It's like slinkies, right? They walk downstairs alone and in pairs. They make a slinkety sound. So see that there's something here that's not doing either one of those. Right? There's something here that's doesn't really care if that thought is horrific or terrible or suffering thought, or if there's a thought that says that's fantasy thought, that's whatever happy thought or pleasant thought or thought of control, right? A lot of times thoughts of control give us a sense of pleasantness, but it's more just fear disguised as a sort of confidence or arrogance of knowledge. Good question. Evelyn. Hello and Happy New Year from Twisp, Washington. That's a fun name for a town. Twisp. This is from Warrior Honey Bunny, Ital. So grateful for the brotherhood here. Life is the lover, and this is the lover of life all at once. Tony Parsons has a nice thing. He describes the lover that never leaves you. And Nisargadatta said when his wife died, after his wife died, I think he said he married freedom. The rest of this comment is, never could have anticipated non-duality would reveal itself in this way. It always sneaks up on you, no matter how many times you hear about it or hear about practices to realize it. When it actually comes online, it's like, oh gosh, damn, it's so easy, so simple, so obvious, so natural. Kind of makes you wonder like how it ever eluded you in the first place, but you don't really worry about that. It's just here, right? So it does sneak up on you. I think Christ had some in the Bible said, the kingdom of our Father is like a thief that sneaks in the night. Something like that. Kingdom of heaven. I don't know what the heck he was talking about, but I think he was talking about this. I think he was pointing out that these insights, these shifts often do sneak up on you. Which makes sense, right? Because here you are, the seeker who's imagining enlightenment's going to give you what you think it's going to give you because you've read all the things and you know all those words and you've heard other people talk about it. So you're orienting to a mental version of it. And when it occurs, or when something stops occurring, and that which was occurring was the mental modeling, when that stops occurring and it just reveals itself, it is like a thief that sneaks in the night. It's just like, what? Where'd that come from? And at the same time, you know where it came from. It's never been gone, right? So it does sneak up on you that way. Okay. Matt Bailey. I've been doing some inquiry around time. Do you guys see how many of these questions are about time? It's really interesting. Maybe I should make a time video later. Time playlist you might like. When I look, I can't find it at all, of course, but somehow there is still a belief in it that drives a lot of my day to day and causes a lot of suffering. Any advice? Well, this is one of those things where it's like confronting that particular fixation directly doesn't always work. It may, but my advice is check out my playlist on these inquiries into the nature of time and present and eternity. But my real advice is just do what you need to do to continue to wake up. Wake up and continue to wake up, and at some point it won't be a problem. Yeah. It's like seeking, Should you confront seeking directly? Yeah, if it works for you, great. But most people don't wake up that way. What happens is later on, it just becomes clear that the mechanism of seeking is clear. It's a thought. It doesn't mean anything. Same with time. Same with doership. Same with separation. But that's a deep, deep realization, the non-dual. Cool. Good questions here. This is from Liz. Hello, Liz. This past week, fear came up strong a few times. So uncomfortable. And in strong contrast to the feeling of ease more commonly felt. Okay. Anyway, suggestions? Didn't dive in, just felt fear. I think you didn't need to dive in. I think you felt it full on. When you feel an emotion full on, it's just like that. It's like, whoa. But it's often very short-lived. I'm sure you noticed that, right? Very intense, but it kind of comes and goes quickly. And it may come back and go for a while, but yeah. You don't really need advice, though. Okay, where are we at? Down to Anne. Hello, Angelo. Hello, everybody. Hello, Anne. Brando, rapidly oscillating between form, formlessness, and the bath of the in-between. All of them feel as if they are different sensations, but they can't possibly be. Right? Good. Excellent. Very well said. Ladika from Eureka. I've had this sensation of scaring away awareness by becoming aware. That's definitely thought, right? The mind does weird things like this. Awareness can't scare away awareness. Awareness is just awareness. It's like consciousness, right? To realize unbound consciousness is to realize like there's nothing in consciousness that's apart from consciousness. There's just consciousness, right? Jennifer Santos. The McDonald's burger koan seems to be the most relevant to my life lately. It's funny. Glitter Muse. Deep end gratitude. Acceleration is an understatement. Fierce feminine is delicious, and I'm diving back in with a fresh new perspective that does not belong to me. Yummy. Sangha. Thanks, Angelo. You're welcome. The feminine aspect is so powerful. Someone mentioned this the other day to me, and it really hit, and I was like, yes, that's it. It was a female, it was a woman. She said, early on in this process, she said, I didn't think I was interested in female teachers. But she said, I didn't realize I was actually scared. I was scared of the power of the feminine coming through. I could feel how powerful it was. And I've heard this before. I've heard people say this, that, they're like, oh yeah, so-and-so, she just doesn't speak in a very precise way or something. I don't resonate. And then as realization for you deepens, suddenly you hear it in a very different way. You're like, oh my God, it's so direct. It's so feminine energy is very powerful coming through an awakened individual, or especially someone who's realized no self. It's very powerful, very transformative. So I recommend working one-on-one with female non-dual clear teachers if you have the opportunity, especially in person if possible, or at retreats. Okay. Bear without ears. How is sexual desire experienced after awakening? Well, it's probably different for everyone, but it's not like it goes away. It does change for sure. Sex drive can go down a lot. Maybe not right after an initial awakening, but it can go down a lot in the sense that you're not like preoccupied and thinking about it all the time, right? You realize how much you can kind of stir it up with the mind. And that, I think that's reasonably common, but in a physical experience, there's still a sexual response for most people, I think. That's just a summary. I mean, everybody's experience is different. Ashley, I don't even remember the last time I ate at McDonald's. Gluten-free life. Logan, I've been dealing with some claustrophobic feelings lately while working on the visual field. Yeah, feels like I'm recognizing how letting go just a touch more means I won't be able to stand apart from anything anymore, and the mind is interpreting that as being stuck with no escape. Feels both fascinating and terrifying. I both do and don't want this. Turning to a lot of TRE seems helpful. Yeah, again, that connection between doing those non-dual contemplations and the emotion body, right? You may feel a sense of being stuck, claustrophobic, afraid. Like a lot of that stuff's going to come. It just comes up. It just does. You could interpret it as, oh, okay, because if the sense of separate, distance out there and in here collapse into like something that's not either out here or in there, like you don't have distance from anything anymore. It's like full on contact. You can interpret that as saying that causes the claustrophobia or something, but really these are just emotions. These are emotions coming up and their interpretations, because it isn't actually like that. There's nothing real that finds non-dual experience uncomfortable. Only an illusion does. An illusion that says there should be distance. Right? All illusions will be dispelled. Nothing real will be dispelled. Yeah. Bear without ears. Does Angelo have Italian roots? Yeah, half Italiano. Father's Italian. This is infinite nothing. The mind keeps trying to grasp the ungraspable, and then it gets frustrated. It's hard to ignore. Feels like an addiction to being the thinker. Yeah. A lot of meditation. I assume you're doing meditation. Good amount of meditation really will attenuate a lot of that. My personal sweet spot is probably 2 hours a day. If I can meditate 2 hours a day consistently, or if I could have over all these years, and when I wasn't always able to, but I did a lot. Things were just so clear, so much in flow. There wasn't so much accumulated like mind weeds, as Suzuki Roshi put it. The unbinding shadow material, repressed emotion, all that stuff had so much space to integrate when there's that much meditation, and you have access to unbound consciousness. It's really nice. It's kind of like a little bit miraculous even. Okay. From Pamela, regarding non-doership. When I'm in the shower, I often think, this is nice. Why would I ever get out? Right? But I always end up getting out. Exactly. It's funny you say that, because I noticed that as well. The shower's like such a fun place to be. It's so nice. I've been thinking about turning my shower into a steam shower. I think it wouldn't be that hard. Okay. But that's exactly the point, right? Exactly. It just happens. The body will get out of the shower. Or not. Maybe in the future you're going to be seeing me doing these from the shower. Anything can happen. Okay, I'm just going back up. I lost my place because sometimes that happens. Yes, this is Hannah from Germany. Oh, good. I met Hannah at the retreat at Art of Living. It's one of my favorite things about retreats is getting to meet all the peeps. And a really nice thing about the conference we're doing in May is like it's not silent, so you get to interact with people all week long, and you get to interact with all the non-duality folks you see on my videos and stuff. Not all of them, but some of them. And we eat meals together. It's just cool. It's really nice. Okay. This is Danny. I've experienced non-dual, not stable, but visual, but still working on reactivity, shadow, getting hooked by the mind. Although there's stages, there's a definite mix of all of it. Is this normal? Yes, totally. That sounds very much like past awakening, doing shadow work, some non-dual experiences coming. Sometimes you'll have periods of total presence. Sometimes you'll have periods where you feel like you're totally in the head. It's all pretty normal. P.S. Big love from Melbourne, Australia. Right on. Ashley says, I love your app, Angelo. I haven't used it in a long time, though. Jennifer says, I love the meditations on the app. I forgot about them, too. Every couple of months, I remember and listen to a few. I haven't listened to them in a few years myself. I probably should. Karen, new member, glad to be here. How does illness, i.e. shingles, become a pointer to awakening when the body pain is intense? I was just talking to someone about this just yesterday, and pain, especially when it becomes severe, you wouldn't wish it on yourself. You wouldn't wish it on anyone else, but it's a really good entry point. Because what pain is doing is it's saying, fuck all that stuff you want to think about right now, and all that stuff you want to do, all the things you want to be doing right now, and then your responsibilities, like, fuck all that. You're going to feel this right now. And so much of us is like, no, like, or like, okay, I can feel it for a while, but not too long, you know. That's the ego, though. That's the ego fighting it. That's the mind-identified part of us wanting to not be in the pain because it's pain, but also just because we lose control. We lose control of this constructed fake world that we live in, and something's driving our attention directly into. I don't know where your shingles are. It could be in your face or wherever, but it's giving you an opportunity to really just delve directly into it. And everybody's different with this. I mean, and it has different experience. For some people, they know what I mean when I say this. And for other people, they're like, why would I do that? I don't want to go to the pain. I want to distract myself, right? But this is a really good opportunity to see what the mind does to distract us. What are its games? What does it do? How are thoughts distracting? How do we use distracting activities? And what are the beliefs around the pain, right? What are the beliefs? What are the beliefs that come up in you when I say, go right to the pain? Go lay in your bed, turn off the phone, tell your family you need some time alone, and just go right to the pain and just feel it fully. What beliefs or thoughts come up that have something to say about that? Maybe a thought of relief comes up like, oh, actually, I want to do that. But maybe not. Maybe something goes, oh, then I won't be able to do this. And I won't be able to do that. And then I can't do this. And then, right? What are those true? How true are those? Maybe they're true. Maybe they're not. Maybe some part of you, some surprising part of you actually wants to go directly into it because you know that the pain is there, whether you like it or not. It's just there. But pain plus resistance is so much worse. Pain plus suffering is so much worse than pain. And anyone can learn that with pain. Again, I don't wish it on anybody, but if it's already there, it's an entry point. It can be. But it's like a high stakes entry point, meaning like, not high stakes, it's I don't know how to say it. It's very black and white. Like you're either avoiding it or you're not. And the mind will try to avoid it a lot. And it seems like the body's trying to avoid it, but the body's not. The mind is. But when you really drop into it, it's surprising. Like, oh God, yeah, the pain's definitely still here. And yet there's no okayness. So yeah, it's somewhat situational. It depends on a lot of things, but that may be helpful. This is from Brian. Thank you, Angelo. Appreciate your wisdom and generosity. You're welcome. Mark saying something to Pamela. Hannah from Germany. Lisa, question on imagination. Had a very subtle experiencing of the world collapsing into me. It came with body and visual sensations. It was very awesome. And mind says that is just imagination. Of course the mind will say that. Of course. The mind, that's how the mind does you. Just remember, the mind's always out of phase. So while that's going on, your mind probably wasn't saying anything. But afterward, when you're thinking back on it, of course the mind is going to distort it, say it's not what it was or whatever, right? Just thoughts. When your thoughts, the mind is always out of phase. So when thoughts are about something that's not happening right now, they're always distorting in nature, even if they're seeking thoughts, even if they're thoughts about how to recreate the pleasant or how to avoid the unpleasant, or judgment thoughts like this. Oh, that wasn't real. Okay. How does that thought know anything about, like, that thought doesn't know anything about this moment. So how could it have been present in that moment to know what's real and unreal? Thoughts are always out of phase, and they're always referencing what's not happening right now. Funny, isn't it? If not a bit tragic. Liz, hearing you read my username reminds me how I don't feel like my name anymore at all. I don't mind when people say Elizabeth or Liz, but it's not me. It's just strange. Do you relate? I don't even think I have a reaction either way anymore. It did for a while, for sure. For a while, it was really weird to pretend I was somebody. That's a hard thing to explain, but it was a phase where it's like, I see people go through this a lot where they're like, they refer to themselves in the third person and they mean it. You know, they're like, yeah, I don't know where she went. Stuff like that. For me, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't even mean a lack of anything. It's just, I don't know. It's just the words that come out of people's mouth. One thing I will say though, is when people give me, appreciation or praise, like I see a lot of it on comments and in person. And what's interesting about it is like, it doesn't land in the way it would have in the past when I had a sense of self and separation and all that, where it would have felt like, I don't know, like there's some pride to it or something. But what's interesting is like, it's almost like, who are they talking about? It really has that feeling of like, wait, what are they talking about? Like me? What do you mean me? Like, it's almost like I want to look back and see like, who are you talking to someone behind me? It has a little bit of that feeling to it. It's like a funny thing, but I know also logically that you're referring to the videos I make and stuff, but it doesn't really have anywhere to land, which is funny. Yeah. But the name is like a placeholder. It's like the name of an object, like pen, Angelo, hand, sky. So there's no anything to it anymore, I don't think. Okay. Hard to talk about that, right? Identity is funny. Nomi Peters, do you have a good reference for the Heart Sutra? I like the version that came from Philip Kapleau Roshi. I'm not sure who translated it originally, but it's like, if you look at the Rochester Zen Center, they have, that version I like. And they have a audio version, I think, and then they have it written out. Bodhisattva of compassion, from the depths of prajna wisdom, saw the emptiness of all five skandhas and sundered the bonds that create suffering. Know then, form here is only emptiness, emptiness only form, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form, feeling, thought, and choice, consciousness itself are the same as this. Dharmas here are empty, all are the primal void. None are born or die, nor are they stained or pure, nor do they wax or wane. So in emptiness, no form, no feeling, thought, or choice, nor is there consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no color, sound, smell, taste, touch, or what the mind takes hold of, nor even active sensing, no ignorance, or end of it, or all that comes of ignorance, no withering, no death, no end of them, nor is there pain, or cause of pain, or cease in pain, or noble path to lead from pain, not even wisdom to attain. Attainment too is emptiness. So know that the Bodhisattva, holding to nothing whatever, but dwelling in prajna wisdom, is freed of delusive hindrance, rid of the fear bred by it, and reaches clearest nirvana. All Buddhas of past and present, Buddhas of future time, through faith and prajna wisdom, come to full enlightenment. Know then the great Dharani, the radiant, peerless mantra, the supreme unfailing mantra, the prajna paramita, whose words allay all pain. This is highest wisdom, true beyond all doubt. Know and proclaim its truth. Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhi, svaha. And the last part means gone, gone, gone beyond, gone altogether beyond, awake, rejoice. That's the one. But at Rochester Zen Center, you can find it. This is from Jaibo Zhao, maybe? Hi, Angelo. How do you move on to anatta realization after unbound consciousness? Is there a playlist or specific videos where you talk more about this? Don't skip the intermediate steps. Reactivity work. is under Fetter 4 and 5 and the playlist called Equanimity. And non-dual, there's a whole bunch of non-dual contemplations in the non-duality playlist. Okay? No self-realization comes beyond that. But there's also a playlist called No Self. But without doing a lot of shadow work in between, I think it eludes most people. It'll elude almost everyone. Not everyone, but you got to do some shadow work. Okay. Amanda Silverberg. I'm easily overwhelmed, pulled back into doership when around others, maybe from their or my expectations, and not sure how to prevent this. Find a way to go into an experience of overwhelm in a safe and supportive environment with somebody who understands it and is awake. There's a modality called PSIP that you can consider. Therapists can be trained in it. Doing, again, shadow or circling work or authentic relating work with a group who knows how to do deep shadow work, anything with James McCleary, Inside Circle, Mankind Project, et cetera, that I've talked about. If you want to see the videos of the facilitators of that, or watch the documentary The Work, right? But you can see the facilitators. I interviewed James McCleary. I've interviewed Eldra Jackson. I've interviewed Rick Meisner, and I've interviewed Bud Wheeler. They all do this work. So those kinds of things. Ashley, take me back to anatomy and physiology with that one. Yeah. Amet. Hey, Angelo, self-inquiry seems superficial at times. Any advice? Sometimes it feels like there is not a real intention to inquire deeply. And in this context, what does deep even mean? Have you done retreats? I would do something that pushes you out of your comfort zone, because you're staying within your comfort zone. Inquiry needs to become uncomfortable at some point, or usually will. Working with Mu, for instance. Mu is nice because it gives a very simple instruction. Don't separate from Mu. Just don't separate from it. Right? And if you're going, I'm not that interested in this, that's separation. That's a thought. So Mu, just Mu. Go back to it. Right? Just Mu. No matter what the mind says about what's happening, even I'm not interested, I'm disconnected, I feel numb, I don't get it. These are all thoughts. You let go of the thought, go back to Mu. Right? So for some people, that's a really powerful approach. It's called the one-pointed approach. But going to a retreat where you have no escape for a week, silent retreat, you have no escape, you can't use the mind to escape constantly, you will break through some barriers. You will get down into the emotion body. Things will start to shift around. And then you have something really powerful to put behind the inquiry, which is suffering. So those are a couple suggestions. Abby. Hi, Angelo. Feels like everything I land on is a cloud. I want to find something stable, but it comes with unhappiness and a feeling of not belonging anywhere. Are you saying that being stable comes with unhappiness and a feeling of not belonging anywhere, or do you mean that land on a cloud feels that way? I'm not clear on that. But I actually liked the first part where you said it feels like everything I land on is a cloud. Yeah, that's okay. If you're talking about relative stability in life, like if your life is like unstable in the relative sense, that's a different thing. But if you're talking about the sense of identity or the sense of wanting to orient to something stable in spirituality, I'd say you don't need to. It's okay to feel like everything you land on is a cloud. That's how it is, right? So what's the obstruction is to feel or to perceive that it's not supposed to be that way. That's always what suffering is. Suffering is the perception that things shouldn't be the way they are. In general or right now, either way. So I would look into that. What is it that's saying it shouldn't be this way? Yeah. And if there's unhappiness, that's maybe a little different answer, but if there's unhappiness in the moment, look into it. Unhappiness is a stated negative experience, right? It's saying, not judgmentally negative. I mean, it's saying there's not happiness here. What is here then? Move towards something instead of away from something. So if there's unhappiness, okay, unhappiness means not happiness. So happiness is not here. But what is here? What is the emotion? Right? And if it's like, oh, it's just blah or depression or just a kind of numbness, go, okay, there's numbness. That's okay. What's below that? What's below the numbness? And don't be surprised if you find something intense, very raw. Yeah. And the feeling of not belonging, I actually made a video about this, I think yesterday, so it'll come out in a few days, that it's very common for people who are very prone to wake up in life to feel really like they don't belong, or they're kind of alien, or they don't know how to fit in the normal ways people do. Now, understand, everybody growing up feels some of this, like probably every teenager goes through this, but people who are prone to awakening, I think, have a much more poignant version of it, or a more pervasive version of feeling like not belonging and so forth. Part of it is just to find your tribe, right? This is your tribe. This, meet people who are interested in this, do the community locator, meet up with others who go through this stuff, go to retreats, and just wake up. The more you wake up, the more you will start to shed that feeling of not belonging, because there's no way to compare. I can't compare here to somewhere else because there is nowhere else. And that becomes clearer and clearer until there's just this happening, and then you don't argue with it anymore, kind of thing, right? Thanks for your comment. This is from Flashed. Hello, everyone. Can you point toward the emotions we avoid? I avoided discomfort to the point where I was being high all day, gaming with no social interactions, doing better now. You answered your own question. It's like, stop doing what you're doing to avoid them a lot of times. And if it's too many things, which sometimes it is, like everything I do all day long is avoiding emotions. Okay, go to a retreat. Go to a silent retreat where you can't run away anymore. You have to face it, and they'll come up. Do circling, do authentic relating with a group that knows how to take you deep. You'll find it. We can get you there pretty quick if you're open to doing explorations, if you're open to doing a process relationally. Psychedelic, consider, possible. I don't want to recommend something to someone who isn't inclined, but if you are inclined, sometimes those will break you through, like ayahuasca, things like that. So, yeah, but I think you said it, like stopping doing what you were doing all day long to avoid emotions, and they'll come up. It's just like with alcoholism, right? If you're alcoholic and you stop drinking, you feel really, really bad for 6 months because all those emotions you've been running from and repressing come up, and then it starts to clear and you feel better, right? This is how addictions are. Now, to be proactive, start asking questions, start inquiring. What am I feeling right now? That my girlfriend dumped me. How would I feel right now? That person looked at me weird. How do I feel? My boss criticized me. How do I feel? I did a great job at work, and my project was accepted by the committee. How do I feel? Start to become emotionally intelligent by asking yourself, how do you feel? And notice you have a huge range of how you feel, and it changes all the time. Emotional intelligence work. If you're interested in the emotion spectrum and emotional intelligence and all that, do work in it. Read about it, practice it, be vulnerable, do group work with it, find other people who are interested in it. Yeah, make a study of it. Nice question. Okay. Infinite nothing. If I could only fly to an Angelo retreat. Evelyn, what is circling, and where could I find a circling group online? There are online circling groups. There are also ways to meet local circling groups or T groups. But if you want to see what full-on, deep, powerful, transformational shadow circling is, watch the documentary called The Work from 2017. And you can work with those guys too. Glitter Muse says, the edges get softer as deep realization continues to verb. Love it. Orientation is the fabric softener of self. Aw, very poetic. Cherie Miller, my heart chakra really opened about 2 weeks ago. I woke up every morning with deep feelings of love. That has mostly stopped, but the second I see a person or animal, dun dun dun, or it is mentioned like you just did, it is back. That's kind of what I was saying before. It's like when he first opens up, it's like, whoa, what is this? Over time, it starts to be much more readily accessible. If someone else's heart opens, or you feel something poignant, or someone shares vulnerably, or whatever. See an animal, it's just like, boom, it opens again. And so it starts to be more readily open, right? All right. Karen, I'm from the Ottawa area in Canada. Okay. I'm going to be at the online retreat in a week or so. Can't wait. Yay. Oh, I didn't announce the online retreat. Probably everyone here knows, but we obviously have an online retreat coming. So, Pamela, I just made a video about trying to hang on to certain insights that I feel might disappear into that ether since there's nowhere to put them. My version of that guy in Memento getting tattoos. So what Pamela mentions here is an interesting phenomenon. I remember it for myself so clearly, where it's like the insights are so real, so powerful. And there was still some part of me that was trying to hold on to them. Like, no, I don't want to let go of the insights. Like the mind plays a next level trick on you where it's like, but if I really let go into this moment and realize there's no past or future, I'm also letting go of my awakening or my insights but you're not. They aren't going anywhere. I like your mention of the movie Memento though. Cherie. Or is it mentioned like you just did? It is back. It feels like home, and that is where I go when I meditate now. Beautiful. Ladika from Eureka. Retracted message because I had time to sit and think about how to frame better, more accurately. Okay. Someone said seeking in reverse video is good for deconstructing time. Nissa. Any advice related to acceptance of acute health situations? This is good because I've seen people who have seems like quite a bit of equanimity, and then they have like a serious health challenge, and maybe they're younger and they've never had one before, like something that could be potentially really serious, devastating or whatever. And it's like, whoa, you feel like you backslid. Like you're like, oh my God, like I took being healthy for granted, right? It's such a gift. It's such a gift to be able to do that. So I would just say, any advice, my advice isn't to try to accept it as much as find out what it has to teach you. The acceptance will come as a result, but find out what it has to teach you. What do I feel? What am I actually afraid of? Oh my God, I'm really afraid of becoming vulnerable. I'm afraid of becoming physically vulnerable where someone is going to have to take care of me. Some like that could happen, right? I may not be able to do what I want to do. I may not be able to work, and I won't have money. I won't have income. I won't be able to take care of myself. I won't be able to take care of my kids. I mean, whatever. Find out what is it. What are the beliefs are related to this? What are the identities related to this? What identity is being threatened when you suddenly have a health issue? All of that, right? And then, yeah. And so she also said, so far I'm just sitting, feeling whatever emotions come up as much as possible. And that's the other side of it, is just feeling the emotions. When it comes to emotion, it's not about analyzing, it's about feeling. Okay. Christopher Joy says, what is meant by somatic work? TRE. Some forms of therapy are somewhat somatic, like PSIP or EMDR, let's say, maybe. Qigong, yoga, intuitive is what I'm trying to say. Dance, intuitive movement, breath work. Oh, okay. Jennifer says the female version of what Bud was talking about is Women Within. There's the Mankind Project and Women Within, and they do that kind of deep shadow work in groups. Greetings from Australia. That's from Checho Os. Holly Angela. Hello, Holly. From Nova Scotia. We have spoken about a tendency here to think I'm doing the feeling wrong. I know where this comes from, but it can feel like I want to perpetuate feelings as identity. I'm doing the feeling wrong. Well, the beauty of feelings is they're never wrong, right? An emotion is never wrong. It's just an emotion. It's just there. Sensation's never wrong. It's kind of like looking at the sky and going, that's wrong. Or looking at a candle flame and going, that's wrong. Feeling an emotion, that's wrong. Feeling one breath, that's wrong. Like we can see how absurd that is. And yet when we feel sadness, something in the mind's like, oh, maybe I'm not feeling this fully. I'm not doing it right. It's like, you are. It's okay. Just feel it. Yeah. And often, again, that's a doubt the mind will lay onto you. It's like, oh, but you're going to become identified with feelings, or you're going to be identified. You're going to use feelings as identity, right? But you're not. Again, that's just the mind playing tricks on you, right? Because a feeling is just a feeling. There's no identity in a feeling. There's no identity in a sensation. There's no identity in an emotion. When we have a lot of identity around emotion, it's actually identity to repress emotion. And it can become even manipulative, right? But you're not that person, because I know you and you're not. Not that I've ever seen. Good question, though. Okay. This is from Gone Beyond. Does distraction ever cease completely? Oh, I mean, largely, yeah. What ceases is the one that can become distracted. Yeah. Presence is mostly continuous, but distraction can arise when restlessness is not clearly seen. Yeah. Is this project worth continuing or something to set aside? What do you mean by project? If you notice it, you notice it. You don't have to second guess yourself with noticing. Yeah, it sounds to me like you're very clear on it. Oh, there's restlessness. Oh, there's a tendency to distract. Okay, that's what's happening. Is there anyone that can be distracted? Is there anywhere to go? Can a distraction take you anywhere? Is there a such thing as distraction anymore? Yeah. So there can be some inquiry. But I think you're very clear on this, and it will just continue to clarify more and more. Again, I'm making the assumption that you've seen through that self-structure. If not, then, seeing that the one that feels like it could be distracted, is that real? How could that happen? What is a distraction? Is there someone who's distracted from something towards something else? How would that work? Right? It's a non-dual question. Federico, my mind may have grabbed the whatever is happening insight and began to use it to bypass emotions. But when the insight is clear, I still wonder how to reconcile it with the fact that shifts will happen. I wouldn't worry about reconciling it. Like, it just feels like a bit of analysis, like a bit too much analysis here. Yeah. Just be really singular about what's actually experienced right now. Sensation, that's plenty. Sound, that's plenty. If it's a self-inquiry, that's plenty. Just self-inquiry. If it's moo, just moo. Everything else is analysis. Everything else is just a bunch of thoughts. Mirrors, house of mirrors. Christiane, the unruly gardener, love it. Lynn Lavalite, member for 25 months. Oh my goodness. When everything I knew fell away, including the body, I saw that all of the seeking practices Kundalini over my lifetime had nothing to do with what I am. It's so funny, right? 20 years of therapy and still can't love the body. Maybe because there isn't a body. Can you love experience? Can you love non-dual presence? Can you love sound? What you can love is the relative illusion that we call a body. Yeah. But you have to see its fundamental nature, which is not a body, right? Like a thief in the night, you came to me and stole my heart away. Beautiful. Okay, Christiane says, does this necessity of being physically and energetically vulnerable have to involve other regular humans? Okay, there's no have-tos, but boy, it's so helpful. It can be really helpful, but this is a very big but, a very big however. It has to be the right humans. It has to be people who know how to do this work, because you can find all kinds of dysfunctional groups. Spiritual groups spiritual groups, circling groups. You can find dysfunction in all kinds of forms. So you got to find people who really know how to do deep shadow and emotion work, and they are themselves vulnerable, and the group has good structure and function, and etc. I'm trying to get as many of these resources out as I can. That's why I mentioned all the videos I've done with interviews, the work, authentic relating. I incorporated into my retreats. Like, I'm doing more and more of it. So, but sometimes you have to look around. You may have to start your own. And you don't have to do anything to awaken. No. Yeah, you don't have to do circling and emotion work and relational work to awaken. You don't have to do anything to awaken. But after awakening, you will come into contact with a lot of shadow work. And when that happens, then I offer these suggestions. That's how it works. Okay. How are we doing on time? We're a little over, actually. Usually I get to all the questions. I'm not sure if I'm going to today, but I will look around here and make sure I'm not missing any ones higher. Let's see. Oh, okay. Here we go. Ryan. Oh, I'm sorry. Jeannie. Thanks so much for your beautiful, clear pointing and your unsparingly generous encouragement. You're very welcome. Glitter Muse. Female teachers kicked my butt into oblivion and it was welcome. Lisa Carnes. Hallelujah. Lisa is powerful medicine. She doesn't seem like it, like in one sense. Like, just watch a video of her and she's so casual and whatever. But man, she's powerful. She has very powerful. She wields a powerful Dharma sword. I'll say that. Ryan, realization seems to cause more compassion toward animals in one's direct interactions, but it doesn't seem to cause people to reduce their consumption. Their consumption of products that harm animals. Why is that? One big misunderstanding we can have about realization is that your realization is going to make the world more peaceful, or more the way you think it should be, or really more the way you think it should be. And you find out it doesn't. But what does go away is your perceptions of how the world could look or should look. It's the best way I can say it. The debates over veganism versus meat eating versus paleo versus natural farming versus, so it goes on and on and on and on. There was a really, really good, detailed, and pretty exhaustive post by a Zen teacher, Mado Moore, actually, about the debate over veganism versus people who eat meat. And it was like in his forum, people were arguing about it, and someone stated something like, well, obviously veganism is the most kind thing to do to animals or something. And he made this long post and explained it, and he pointed out, he used references from the suttas and so forth. And he pointed out, like, some people would argue that's speciesism, right? Like, when you plow fields, you kill a lot of animals. You kill tons of animals. Farming kills animals, right? They're just smaller animals. So is that speciesism versus killing a big animal versus, like, my friend that hunts and he shoots an elk and feeds his family for the entire year with one animal that would have starved otherwise? So is that reducing suffering versus killing thousands and thousands of mice and voles and all that by farming fields? And right, like, the truth of it, I think, comes down to, and what you realize is, like, life is really based on consumption of other life forms. It just is, Can we treat animals better? For sure. But to see things in a sort of black and white way, and to believe that awakening and realization is going to make things more in alignment with what we consider to be more peaceful or more non-harmful and so forth, it doesn't really work that way. And a lot of it is because of our own preconceptions and misunderstandings. The reference he made to the suttas, Buddha does talk about eating meat in different places. What he really says is you shouldn't eat an animal that was killed specifically to feed you. That was what he told his monks. But he also mentioned that farming and agriculture also kills animals. So he really advocated for basically eating something that was going to be thrown away anyway. That's what he said. So there's that, right? Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get into, like, a whole bunch of debate about this stuff, but I would say what to look at if you're interested in awakening and you're thinking in terms of, but shouldn't people be more vegan? Shouldn't they do this? Shouldn't they do that? Look at what your preconceptions are and how those are fixating and holding you up. Lisa Carnes has a really cool story she told. She's told it a bunch of times, but I think she's still vegan, or she is vegan. Before awakening, she was not only vegan, but she was she would protest and things like that. And she had much stronger feelings about it. I think after awakening, she said she ate meat periodically, but I think now she's vegan, I think. But anyway, she told this really interesting story. It was when she was waking up. She was in a butcher shop with her boyfriend at the time. And she said, I was looking into this meat case and I was just making this like nasty face, like, that's so gross and stuff. And she said, he looked over at me and he just said, you're only seeing your own death there. And she's like, yeah, I just kind of thought he was being an asshole, but I later realized he's right. And so my interpretation of that kind of thing, and I see it a lot, is what we don't realize is that we think we're doing what we're doing because it's good for the world, but we're actually doing it because we think it's good for us. It's like I'm trying to be a less violent person because I'm afraid of the violence happening to me, right? I'm afraid of me dying. I'm afraid of me growing old and decaying and becoming diseased. That's often the mechanism underneath it all. I'm not discouraging anyone from doing anything they want to do. And I think the spirit of veganism is reasonably well placed, even if it doesn't completely pan out to not harming animals, because it doesn't. But yeah, there you go. Okay, that's all I got to say about that. Hannah, first half of the question got out. A general feeling of not being safe comes up here. Nothing seems solid or relatable, neither the body and mind, nor this what seems to be out there, experiential. Okay. Oh my God, I lost my place. So many comments. I'm looking. Oh, okay. I found it. All right. Nothing seems solid or relatable, neither the body and mind, nor this, what seems to be out there. That you're in that kind of in-between phase for sure, where I understand it can be like, it's hard to find something reliable. It feels like there's no anchor point. It feels like there's no backdrop. It feels like there's no reliable point of view and so forth. Like I understand all that. And it is something we go through sometimes. It's good news because you've dissolved so many anchor points and so forth. And yet the deeper insight of like the luminous nature of non-dual realization isn't clear yet. When that is, there'll be this intimacy that is unmistakable. And in a sense, you could say that's reliable, even though that's not really the right language to use, but it's just here, right? There's this intimacy that's just here, and it feels very settling. And it's non-oriented, but you don't need orientation. It's just here. That's what replaces the illusion of orientation that the mind constructs. And it can take some time. So you're in that gap, and it's okay. Jennifer says a steam shower sounds nice. Yeah, it's something I'm interested in putting in my shower. Sandra, no need to answer if it does not fit this type of video. Do you think if we all wake up, humanity would slowly die out? Assumption. We would no longer have the same need to get kids or live forever. I have no idea. I think some people would have kids if they're awake. I think awake people sometimes are inclined to have children. For sure. But who knows? Jenny, greetings. If there is no past, what is the purification process? I have such intense, surprising feelings arising unrelated to any current circumstances. Definitely feels like childhood stuff. Yeah. If it's here now, it's here now. It's not in the past. Sometimes it helps to give it that context or realize, oh yeah, this thing happened when I was a child and I see blah, 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 blah. But what you're experiencing and processing and the energetics they're moving through are moving through right now, because they can only be moving through right now. They can only be here right now. That's kind of what I'm getting at with that. Mm-hmm. So it can be skillful to work with trauma that's related to timelines, right? And so forth. That's different than when you're doing a kind of one-pointed inquiry and noticing the nature of thought and noticing that thoughts are always referring to something that's not happening right now, that's not here right now. And that all you really know is this. You can't know if a thought is about something real or unreal. You have no idea. It's impossible, of course. Yeah. But in the context of doing shadow work and so forth, often the narratives and storylines do come into play and can be helpful. So it's the kind of thing where it's like, once the absolute is realized, then the next thing to realize is that relative and absolute aren't two. So this isn't a contradiction. It's not a problem. Okay. This is Tia. I was one of your partners in the observatory. I felt heart-opening every time I saw you at the retreat. I can't explain it and don't care to try. Just wanted to say hi. Hi, Tia. Sue. Find myself sitting for hours. Life is meditating me. I don't have the motivation to participate in activities from the past that were ego-driven. Worried I'll become a sloth. You won't. Probably. I don't think you'll become a sloth. Sometimes we have a adjustment period where it's like, oh, I feel so good. Just sit. Just keep sitting. Just keep sitting, because a lot of processing is going on energetically. It's totally fine. Okay. Looking down here for other questions. Anne Lay says, is an anatta the same as fetter 10 drops? It's eighth fetter in the way Kevin Chanelek described it and the way we talked about it in his series. Not everyone agrees that what he's talking about are the actual fetters. What he's talking about are definitely shifts, no doubt about it. There's no doubt. Non-dual, no self shifts are very clearly what happens. And he aligns those with the seventh and eighth fetter. So ninth and 10th fetter are beyond that. Okay. Mark. Angelo, I know this has no place to land, but thank you so much. Oh, you're welcome. Glad to hear it. It's been transformational, he said. Good. It's from Matt. Heading toward first awakening. After years of practice and following a spiritual path, I feel like it is all boiling down to just effort, vigilance, to not be on the thought train. Much of it does. Yeah, much of it does for sure. And then surrender to what is happening here and now. Yep. And that is it. All I need to do. Yep. It is all you need to do. And be really discerning about what is a thought. That's the key. Because you'll be sometimes surprised by the thoughts that catch you and you identify with them without realizing it. But yeah, you're right on the money there. Good. All right. Flashed. Thank you, Angelo. I've actually done some psychedelics and also had some non-dual experiences the first times I smoked weed, often trying to duplicate those first experiences. Yeah, that happens with experience. That's the problem with experiences. We always try to duplicate them and we chase them, right? This is Bears Without Ears. What are my thoughts on Vipassana meditation and Vipassana retreats? Go for it. Try it out. I've not done one, so I can't tell you specifically. I just heard about a lot of people telling me about them. I think there's a lot of benefit to doing a silent retreat of any kind, really. But they probably have their limitations as well. You don't really have a teacher there, really. You have videos to watch, but Aiden, have I heard of Jim Newman? Of course I have. Yeah. He's the second, it sounds bad, the second iteration of Tony Parsons. They have a very specific way of speaking, and it can be powerful pointing, I think, especially for first awakening for some people, especially for people who are lifelong spiritual seekers who have really intellectualized the whole spiritual thing. They're really good medicine for that, and they can really cut through, but they tend to be one-dimensional in the way they point. And there are some people I think that can be I know it can be really harmful for. So people who tend to dissociate, that's the absolute worst kind of stuff for them to listen to. Some people have become suicidal, and there have been a couple of suicides. So, all right. Aaron Showers. The more clear seeing I have, the more I notice answers to my questions in synchronicity, videos, or social media posts that randomly pop up. Sam. Why do we feel so pushed and pulled by desire? We don't even want most of our wants because we think that the thoughts that we have about the world are actually the world. We don't realize we're just in a house of mirrors of our own freaking thoughts bouncing ourselves around. It's all about misperception. Identity is rooted in a belief that you don't realize you hold. From Jeffrey Levins. Vegan versus eating animals. A favorite quote from Franklin Jonas Baba Free John, the guru with 1,000 names. Enlightenment is not about lunch. Yeah. This is a little bit more of a edgy one, but I've heard said before. Hitler was a vegetarian and the Dalai Lama eats meat. Whatever. Take that as you will, but apparently it's true. Sarnish. Hi, everyone. Just back from being humbled at doggy training. Delusion continues, trying to stop it. Just more self-interest. Dogs are so fun. I fucking love dogs. They're like my favorite. Holly, thank you so much. Angelo, see you on the online retreat. My boyfriend's coming too. Woo! Good to hear it. That's great to hear. Oh, how are we doing? Am I at the bottom of my comments? Did I get to the bottom? I think I might have. Is it possible? Let me see. I think I did. Oh, not quite. Okay, a couple here. Paul D. I have been making amends to individuals from the past and asking them to describe how I've harmed them. That takes courage. They may, I was going to say balls, but, courage. They may speak for an hour. Wow. I say nothing. Feels similar to the first shift. Thoughts? Dude, that's awesome. That's a great practice. Great practice. Christiane. If one can't do anything to wake up, can anything be done to shorten the time in this life? Or is it really just going to happen? Okay. The part that makes this confusing is when I say there's nothing that you can do to wake up. You can't force the hand of awakening. It's like you can't just look at the ground and go, I want that plant to grow plant, and it just grows out of the ground. It's not like that. But you can till the soil, you can fertilize the soil, you can make the conditions ripe for it, first of all. Second of all, when we talk about doership and non-doership and so forth, it's not that nothing gets done. It's just that there's no one doing it. So doing happens. There's just no doer. But that's a total conundrum to the mind until it's clear. Until the realization dawns, it just seems like blah, 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 blah. It doesn't make sense, right? So don't get hung up on, oh, well, there's nothing to do. The only reason I say that is to people who are fixating with that. But if you feel inclined to do inquiry, you don't need to ask yourself, well, who's doing inquiry? You don't need to do that. Just inquire. Don't worry about who's doing it or not doing it. It'll become clear at some point. Yeah. This is from DVD Mon. The whole veganism awakening thing seems paradoxical. On the other hand, although I'm technically vegan, I also feel like many vegans are highly identified as vegans, almost a fixation. That's exactly it. Yeah. I don't have anything against people who are vegan, and it's you have to take some dedication, right, to eat that way and stuff. And it does reduce harm of certain populations of animals, but it may not for some other populations of animals. Like I said, smaller little rodents and things that live in fields that get plowed and kills them. So I don't have an issue with it, but I think some people are definitely identified with it. I do think we should reduce harm in any way possible to the way that animals are raised to become food, right? For sure. No doubt about it. There's an unnecessary level of harm and suffering imposed upon animals that can be done differently, for sure. Okay. That's all. Thank you all for your comments, questions. There was actually quite a few this time, like a lot more than usual, it seems like. But we did it. So thank you all again. Hopefully I'll see a lot of you at the online retreat in a week or so. And an in-person retreats coming up. Hopefully that'll be really fun. I appreciate all your support. I appreciate your comments, questions, and mostly I appreciate the work you're doing. This isn't easy work, but it does make a difference. Of course it does. See y'all.